Let's take practical steps to better access the power of love. Way back in 1977, when I was just a 12-year-old disabled boy preparing for his bar mitzvah, I was delighted at our introduction to old Ben Kenobi just after the ambush of Luke. He seemed both powerful and loving, and I thought, I want to be like that. As someone who is differently able, I was drawn to Tantric Buddhism for a number of reasons, one of which being the power of recitation to serve as a tonic for my body. Let's look at three of those recitations this morning. Three of the recitations that pertain directly to the second, first, and sixth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. So what follows is not necessarily a prayer. A prayer is basically addressed to a real or imagined celestial entity, either one or a group. This is basically something we recite to exercise the neural pathways that can help us to become the people that our dogs already think we are. We're going to access the neural pathways necessary for empathetic bodhicitta and enthusiastic refuge. And what those words mean will be revealed momentarily. Whoops, got to do a quick edit so that I don't get all turned around. There we go. So this first of three recitations is rather literal. It has been set to a triplet chant, which we will explore in a moment or two. Let's take a moment now just to explore the actual words. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging. So the first thing we are exploring is empathy that says, I see a problem and I'd like very much to do something about it that is beneficial. Hence, may I liberate. What do we wish to liberate people from? Is it the mere presence of the primal drives to shove at that which is harmful, or reach for that which is beneficial that we have yet to possess, or cling to that which we do possess out of fear of losing it? No, the problem is not the presence of these impulses, for they served us well, evolutionarily speaking. The problem is the tyranny of these impulses. When our impulses are just tools in our toolbox, when they are just one of many advisors, they're useful. But when they are our only tool, when they are our only advisor, we wind up with a life that is tragically deficient in fulfillment. Our most primal evolutionary drives are wired to our dopamine-oriented reward system. So we experience either an increase in pleasure or a decrease in pain by acquiescing to these impulses. But we have more than just one reward system. We have a oxytocin-oriented reward system that rewards not with pleasure, but with a sense of fulfillment, a sense of meaning. Now, we are all wired to want to long for our basic needs to be met. Food, water, food, shelter, clothing, reproduction. These are very, very basic drives, and anybody who has survived junior high can tell you that the drive to reproduce can be maddening. But the indulgence of these drives only give us temporary pleasure. It's wired to be that way. For instance, the quest for water was never meant to be fulfilling. Otherwise, we would We would have a glass of water and be done with it and die of dehydration in a week. We are never content with water. Every hour, we want some every hour, if not every day, and that's exactly how we're wired. The dissatisfaction with the indulging of those drives is necessary not only for the survival of the species, but for the individual organisms. That means me and you. So that is not a quirk in our evolution. But if all we ever do is only address our dopamine-oriented reward system, our life is going to be deeply unsatisfying. And the Buddha, the legend tells us that before the Buddha was the Buddha, he was known as Gautama, and he had every creature comfort you wanted. But when he finally came face to face with the unpleasant inevitabilities of aging and illness and death, that shifted his perspective upon his creature comforts, and he recognized that in addition to pleasure, he also wanted fulfillment. And that began his great quest to help humanity get fulfillment on tap. And so one of the ways that you and I can do that is to recognize not only the role of, not through belief, but just through observation, recognize the dissatisfaction that comes from living from our more baser drives, and see that we're not alone in our desire for meaning and fulfillment, and to look around us and see that this is a need shared by all. So that was empathetic bodhicitta, and now we come to enthusiastic refuge. So how do we fulfill this most noble intention? By relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. So not by prayer, not by faith, not by magical incantation, but pragmatically, whether the Buddha was real or merely archetypical, he has made a huge impression on popular culture. And so the example of someone devoting their lives to love and wisdom is a stunning example. The Buddha's instructions of mindfulness and meditation and empathy are profound. And if we're truly fortunate, we'll meet people who have devoted their lives to the Buddha's example instructions and who can help us to implement his instructions easily and efficiently. So what I like to do is I like to set this to a triplet chant that was taught to me by one of my earlier teachers. So let's practice it together. I recommend pushing your hands together in the puckered palm position in front of your sternum. Together. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, by relying on the Buddha's example and instructions and students. If you have the privilege of living with cats, cats are wonderful barometers of subtle electromagnetic phenomena. And there was a time in my life when I lived with an individual who had 11 cats. And each cat had their own favorite recitation of mine. And so as I'd sit there and practice, different cats would come and say, "Oh, this is my favorite chant." And they'd come and stretch and purr and jump in my lap. And when that chant was over, they'd leave. It was kind of fun. So what I'd like to do now is take a deeper look at these three nouns. These three nouns, example, instructions, and students, are so poignant that over the centuries, they evolved a metaphoric nickname for these three nouns would be wow, look at this. Would be, he said during a pregnant pause, the three wish-fulfilling jewels, kind of like Aladdin's lamp. So this version of the same idea is more concise and also more figurative. We're setting it to a bookend chant. And I call it a bookend chant because if you have more shelf than books and you put your books on the shelf, they'll tip over. So those of us who appreciate symmetry will put something heavy on one end of the books and the other end of the books to keep them together, hence bookends. This is kind of like that. These are all quarter notes in a monotone, with the exception of the first syllable and the second to last syllable. Together, let's chant. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. Now, I'm tone deaf, so my biggest problem is the vowel after the second to the last vowel, because I want to make it too low. And I used to date someone who was spent her youth in the choir, so she would cringe whenever I chanted, because me hitting the right note is basically a crap shot. So there's no need for you to beat yourself up. There's no need for perfectionism. We're just two schmoes trying our best. Let's do it 2 more times. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. Both my Tibetan teachers, as well as both my teachers of Tibetan Tantra and my Hawaiian teachers of Huna, agreed that in addition to exercising our mind and heart, we also need to exercise our body. And so my Tibetan teachers were rather fond of Buddha bowing. Due to my psoriatic arthritis, I really can't do traditional Tibetan style Buddha bowing, so I have hacked it, and I simply now perform geriatric step back squat thrusts. I find them to be delightfully invigorating. Now, some people are very, very superstitious, and if you look online, you can find the 11 benefits of bowing. But if we, number one, if we embrace that too tightly, that can feed our magical thinking and our transactional, as well as our transactional thinking that we're going to do this in order to avoid some bad things and get some good things. And that just reinforces the duality of pulling and pushing that does more harm than good. So for me, I like to do Buddha bowing just because it's a fun thing to do. It feels good, it's free, it's good for my body and brain. The easiest way to get me to do something is tell me it's good for others, it's good for my health, or it's good for the environment. And so I really like this a lot. So my favorite workout is to perform geriatric step back squat thrusts while reciting this in front of a Buddha statue. I try not to be superstitious about it. I do it because I think it's fun, and it's kind of like a sentimental thing, connecting me to the people, the meditators, the chain of meditators going, descending through the centuries who've been doing this. Once again, it's not mandatory. I'm not going to show up at your doorstep and scold you if you don't do Buddha bowing. As promised, the third recitation I'd like to explore this morning is the 4 immeasurables, which is a grammatical challenge. So classically, the 4 immeasurables, there's 2 ideas here, 4 and immeasurable. 4 refers to the 4 Brahmaviyas or heavenly abodes, which I like to sequence as compassion, love, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Other people use a different sequence. That's fine. Immeasurables means the object of our wishes is not one person or 2 people, but all beings of all worlds, real or imagined. Hence, immeasurable. So we're going to begin with the most rudimentary example of compassion. May everyone be free from suffering. The other day, in one of my shorts, I talked about people not liking pain, and someone wrote me back and said, "I like pain." Well, then for that person, that's not pain; it's pleasure. He might so, but most of us, however we define it, don't want it. That's how we're wired. In fact, it is the aversion to suffering is one of the things that serves as the common denominator for all sentient beings. Our next wish would be an exercise of love. So Daniel wrote, "I'm feeling liberated." Well, mazel tov. That's great, Daniel. So the second wish is for love. May everyone be happy. So compassion seeks to dampen suffering. Love seeks to increase happiness. So says the Lamas of Tibet. So now we come to a sympathetic joy, which is pretty much the opposite of being competitive. There was a wonderful line, oh goodness, from Pride and Prejudice, where Elizabeth's very petty mom says, "Oh, they're so happy. I only hope it lasts." And the way the actress delivers it, you get the feeling that she doesn't really mean that. She feels competitive, and she feels jealous, and she feels petty, and she wants them to be miserable. So this is the opposite of that. And the wish is, not only do we want everyone to be happy, but may no one be separated from their happiness. In other words, what's that? You have good fortune? Great. May your good fortune exist in perpetuity. That's excellent. That now, I remember there was a time when I was very playfully competitive. And one of my first preceptors, Genwang Mo, pulled me aside and she said, there's more good karma to be had in rejoicing over another's good fortune than in feeling competitive for their good fortune. And those words really stuck with me. So that's what we're doing here. We are exercising the neural pathway that's already latent within us, that is antithetical to our competitive tendencies. We come now to the fourth of the four immeasurables, which is balance. There's two perspectives of this. A conventional perspective of this would be balance between hating enemies and loving intimates. But an ultimate an ultimate application of this would be not about people, but about all things, beings, and phenomena. May everyone have balance, free from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging. Or actually, may everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, freed. Because the last word of a sentence can have an effect on our subconscious. So we really want to end with the word freed, which is rather powerful and from a certain point of view. So we've looked at this from the perspective of immeasurables, and we've looked at this from the perspective of the four Brahmaviyas, or celestial abodes. I would like to now look at this from the perspective of the three poisons. So we hate our sufferings. We have an aversion to our sufferings. That's when we wish, may everyone be free for suffering that they need not hate. May everyone be happy, everyone have what they would desire, may everyone have what they require, thus there is no need to crave what they already possess. May no one be separated from their happiness, therefore there is no need to cling. So this is just a really, really fun little recitation that embraces so much of the path, not just the second fold of the Eightfold Path, which is wishing love, but the first fold of the Eightfold Path, which is the right view. And there are two ways of looking at right view. The right view of interdependence, things affect things and things are affected by things, and the right view of change. And so in these three concise recitations, we are exploring the right view and the right aspirations, approximately 25% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. And now together as a team, I think it could be fun if we chanted the four immeasurables one time right now. May everyone be free from suffering. May everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, freed. I look forward to chanting and meditating with you a bit more, which we shall do after about 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent more than 8 hours a day, every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. This morning, let's play with Atisha's concise sadhana of Grantada, adapted and amplified for Shakyamuni. Let's begin by inviting our energy to the crown of our head by placing our hands in the puckered palm position overhead and performing the following recitation. Lama kuntu zangpo yabum, please come to this crown and lavish me with the attainments both take two. And lavish me with all the attainments both conventional and ultimate. I think there's something in my field of vision. Okay. As children, our first bike most likely had training wheels, and although they were clunky, they got the job done. This morning's first meditation is also clunky. During each inhalation, let's silently and mentally recite the 12 syllables, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. And during each exhalation, let's silently and mentally recite another 12 syllables, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. We've already explored refuge, bodhicitta, and the four immeasurables. So now let's review the meaning of emptiness. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we notice during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a beautiful cloudless morn, which although compelling to the eye is not graspable to the hand. And now what follows is the classic way of representing this. Om Soba Washuda Sarva Dharma Soba Washudoham. Om Alphanamana, including myself, are purified of conventional existence. Everything becomes as non-graspable as emptiness. And this made much more sense to me after I was taught the yoga of inconceivabilities, which I like to refer to as wisdom's dance of impermanence and interdependence. Although perhaps that's a bit too pretentious. I think I'll change that. Let's go down to 18. And let's go over here. I can't say inconceivable without thinking about the Sicilian from Princess Bride. We're going to begin with the circumstantial dance of impermanence and interdependence. We're going to begin with a verbal rhetorical question followed by a silent, more concise version of the same rhetorical question. What could it look like if all circumstances are lost blissfully and impermanently melted into rainbow light that interdependently absorbed into this body or form? And now the physical dance of impermanence and interdependence. What could it feel like if all forms or bodies blissfully and impermanently melted into rainbow light that interdependently absorbed into this communication or speech? We turn our attention now to the interpersonal. What could it sound like if all interpersonal speech blissfully and impermanently melted into rainbow light that interdependently absorbed into this mind? What could it be like if all minds blissfully and impermanently melted into rainbow light that interdependently absorbed into our vast empty void? During our inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the rhetorical question, how relax into the awareness of this. During our exhalation, we could physically relax as best we can into the recitation of this 12-syllable mantra. Muni muni ma muni eswa muni muni ma muni eswa muni muni ma muni eswa muni muni ma muni eswa. Muni muni maha muni eswaha muni muni maha muni eswaha muni muni maha muni eswaha muni muni maha muni eswaha. Muni muni maha muni eswaha muni muni maha muni eswaha muni muni maha muni eswaha muni muni maha muni eswaha. Muni muni ma muni eswaha muni muni ma muni eswaha muni muni maha muni eswaha muni muni maha muni eswaha. Now let us remove the first of two metaphoric training wheels and reduce our contemplations from 12 syllables down to just 3. During each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, notice this, and during each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing. It is inevitable that there are times when we will feel great resistance to the circumstantial, or the physical, or the interpersonal, or the mental. When that happens, these 10 labels can help us, not to change those things, but to accept those things, to harness their momentum, as it were. For instance, if you feel cottoned mouth, you could play with sensation, relaxing. If you feel antsy, you could play with emotion, relaxing. Now let's perform a centering contemplation. From the emptiness of his cerebral palm transforms into a lotus seed. On the top of this appears a cerebral lava, transforms into a moon seed the size of a thumbnail, on which this mind appears in the form of a gold letter M the size of a mustard seed. Now let's further explore the iconography of the archetype of enlightenment. Now in the aspect of a gold syllable Mumeladrazime that make offerings to all the Buddhas, thus empowering the possibility of benefiting all sentient beings. May the rays then reabsorb into this mind and thus become like the archetype Shakyamuni. Shakyamuni translates as sage of the Shakya clan. Go translucent the perfect body of complete enjoyment. Oh, let's hear this. Okay, let's try this again. Go translucent, the perfect body of compassionate emanation. Right hand holding a begging bowl and left hand in the earth touching gesture. Actually, that's the opposite way. There we go. His back rests against a full moon throne, and his forehead is the syllable. I like to call this the tantric hand jive, also known as mudra, but I think tantric hand jive is funnier. We now remove the second of two metaphoric training wheels and reduce our meditations down to just one syllable. During each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this, and during each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax. Reducing the three-syllable labels down to one syllable requires some poetic license. And so occasionally when we feel physical phenomena, we could use the label form. And when we feel their emotional counterpart, we could use the verb feel. When we are lost in memory, we could use the preposition then. And when we are lost in fantasy, we could use the verb dream. Oh, just Lord is the syllable line. Together, let us meditate as transformatively as Obi-Wan Kenobi upon Tatooine under the guidance of the Force Ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn. And honest on him is the syllable. Now let us contemplate the egalitarianism of the body mandala from the together. Hand jive in front of the sternum. From the sternum, who may lie regiment and invoke all the Buddhas of the 10 directions, each in the form of Shakyamuni. Now it's time for a bit of the old hand jive. Om Benza Samaya, Om Benza Samaya Zahu. Om Benza Samaya Zahum Bam Ho. May all these yadams absorb into oneself. Now let's contemplate empowerment's energy work. Again, from the seed syllables on his sternum, Melatrizim, and invoke the 5 initiating jhana Buddhas. Now we recite Om Vasha Samaya and make the request. Please, all Buddhas, bestow on me all empowerments. Then the Tathagata say Om Sarva Tathagata Abhishika Samaya Shriyahum. Having spoken thusly, they pour water from a vessel on top of our heads. The water goes throughout our bodies, purifying all bodily defilements. It fills up our bodies to the top of our heads. And then on the top of our heads appears the Dhammakaya form of Kuntu Sangpo Yam Yum. We're going to play with more hand jives, 6 more hand jives that correspond to different parts of our body and different energy centers. So let's begin by putting our hands over our head. I offer, and second thought, in front of our forehead. Yeah. I offer the experience of wisdom thus appearing it as not graspable as a void. Om Shakyamuni Adarshe Patitso Hum Swaha. So what we're really doing is training in the 2 truths of the conventional and the ultimate, perception and release. Now let's place our palms as close as we can to our lap. I offer the experience of wisdom sense fragrant yet as not graspable as a void. Om Shakyamuni Gande Bodhiso Hum Swaha. So sensuality is not our enemy. Whatever we notice, we can release due to the magic, metaphoric magic, of our sympathetic nervous system, which is wired to notice, and our parasympathetic nervous system, which is wired to physically relax and mentally release in harmony with each exhalation. Let's place our gesture in front of our throat. I offer the experience of wisdom sounds resounding yet as non-graspable as a void. Shakyamuni Weenie Pati Sohum Swam. Let's place the gesture in front of our navel. I offer the experience of wisdom tastes flavorful yet as non-graspable as a void. Shakyamuni Rase Pati Sohum Swam. If you've just joined, welcome aboard. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Let's place our gesture in front of our sternum. I offer the experience of wisdom, feelings, and show yet as non-graspable as a void. Shakyamuni Paje Pati Sohum Swam. And let's place this gesture in front of our solar plex, midway between our sternum and navel. I offer the experience of wisdom, thoughts lucid yet as non-graspable as a void. Shakyamuni Dharme Pati Sohum Swam. Now let's rest the mind. During each inhalation, we are wired to perceive. Let me quickly dispense with this webcam. I think this will do it. Okay. During each inhalation, we're wired to perceive thanks to our sympathetic nervous system, and during each exhalation, we're wired to physically relax and mentally release due to our parasympathetic nervous system. Therefore, during each inhalation, we can best step out of our own way by silently and mentally reciting the demonstrative pronoun this. And during each exhalation, we can best step out of our own way by silently and mentally reciting the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax. We come now to mantra meditations known by many names, such as Tokal's Leap Over or the Generation Stage or the Creation Stage or Maha Yoga. Oh, yes, it's also known as, well, we're playing with Sanskrit. It's also known as Tantra Mahamudra. There you go. At one side on the moon, see there is a considerable moon, surrounded by the 12 syllables. O Muni Muni Mahamuni Yeswa. With whom we invoke the example of the Muni wise one, Maha greatly wise one, Muni, yea, of the Shaka Swaha, wishing enlightenment for all. From these syllables may rays of light emit and make offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, thus empowering our ability to benefit all sentient beings. May all the powers, blessings, and love of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas manifest in the form of rays of light, which is ordered to the mantra rosary encircling the hot seed syllable. We now recite the mantra 128 times or as much as possible. But first we rest the mind. So we're going to play with 8 mantra meditations. The first 4 will be about love and letting go. The second 4 will be about awareness and letting go. The Buddha was fond of organizing all things, beings, and phenomena into 4 categories or bases of mindfulness. The mental, the interpersonal, the physical, and the circumstantial. We're going to begin with the mental. So we're going to begin by chanting 4 lines of wishing love. These are not affirmations. These are just ways of exercising our intention, our will, kind of like push-ups or deep knee bends. May whole minds of all beings now be as peaceful and wise as the mind of a Buddha of law symbolized by a one suitable Siddhi clay or Bija mantra. So quick like a buddy, I'm going to convert this text. And now we perform a silent version, a concise version of the same wish. So what we do now is we recite the concise wish during our inhalation, and during our exhalation we physically relax as best we can while chanting this 12-syllable mantra. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Yeswaha. So this is not about faith, this is not about belief, this is not about visualization. We're just exercising our intention and coordinating that with our inhalation and our exhalation. May all relationships, all speech of all beings be as joyful and loving as they. Real or imagined Buddha's communication symbolized by this 12-syllable mantra. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Swaha. May all bodies or forms of all beings know and show the beautiful health depicted in Buddhist art. Of the blissful body or of a yidam of lore and octave of enlightenment. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. May all circumstances or lots of all beings know have their safety, good fortune, on boon. As a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or Vanti. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Let's rest the mind. And now for the next 4 exercises, we're going to bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the path of awareness and letting go. How is it that as we inhale, all circumstances or thoughts could appear quite vivid? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as not graspable as a real or imagined paradise or vati of light. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. How is it that as we inhale, all bodies or forms could feel quite sensual? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they can feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined archetype or yidam of light. Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswa Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswa Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswa Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha. How is it that as we inhale the interpersonal experience of communication or speech could be quite resounding? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, it could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined mantra of light. Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha. Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha. Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha. Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha. How is it that as we inhale we could perceive all mind's functions quite clearly? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as not graspable as a real or imagined considerable hum of light. Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Ma Muni Eswaha Muni Muni Maha Muni Eswaha. May the common and supreme attainments of magical powers and full enlightenment be lavished upon all sentient beings and myself. Through our recitation and meditation, may all sickness, poverty, and warfare be completely pacified, and may all dharma and good omens be all pervasive. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 and 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.